All right, let's welcome into Straight Fire a first-time guest. She claims this is the first time she's ever done a podcast.
Been a
It's
guest, been a
been a
guest.
guest on a
I've got a
podcast, obviously.
podcast.
She has everybody has a podcast. Yes. Jolie Sharpe. If you're following on social media, you know her for sure. She blew up 2 years ago, and it's been a rocket ship to the top ever since. She's in America supporting England for the World Cup. Jolie, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm currently in my hotel room in Philadelphia, so if it's a bit messy, I promise it's not usually this bad, but lots of
Yeah.
traveling, lots of different states. I'm loving every second of it.
Yeah. So you're very young, obviously. What are you, 22 or something like that?
No, I'm about to turn 25.
25. Okay, so you're 25. Is this your first time in America?
It's not, no. I've been lucky enough
Oh,
to been a few times with my family. Um,
okay.
growing up, I love the States. I feel like there's so much to love with it. There's so much that is offered, and everywhere you go is a little bit different and has different
Hmm.
pros and different cons, like everywhere. But the way I've experienced it over the last 5 weeks has been different to anything I've ever done before.
Certainly. So what has it been like during the World Cup, which is different than just visiting with your fam?
I guess the amount of travel that I'm doing, sometimes I'm in a state for 48 hours max, sometimes 24 hours. And a lot of the time, people, for example, we were filming in LA and everyone was like, how was LA? I was like, if I'm totally honest, I went from the airport to the hotel, to the shoot location, back to the hotel, back to the airport, but it was
Right.
great. It just feels like there's a different air about at the moment. And I
Hmm.
think from what I've spoken about to my friends back at home in the UK and everyone really worldwide, there's this buzz about the World Cup, and obviously you feel it more because we're here in the US,
Yeah.
but there's this positive. I don't know if I'm the only one feeling it, but this really nice
No.
air around at the minute.
Yeah. You're definitely not the only one. And it looks like you go into the games with your family. That is pretty cool that you let them follow you and tag along, right? I mean, so and you're supporting England, right?
I think they would kill me if I said I let them tag along. My whole life.
Yes, obviously.
We've done it together, and I'm so the biggest perk of the job is being able to certain things where I can take my family. My
Hmm.
parents came to Egypt with me for a big fight that I was doing with DAZN. I was with interviewing David Beckham on Tuesday, and they came to that with me in Miami. We're obviously now going to Atlanta together, so it's so special having them out
Yeah.
here. Um, I did the group stages. My brother was out here, and then my parents flew out from the quarters, and now we're all going to be together for the semi and the final, which we will be in. So that has just topped everything off.
Amazing.
I have no homesickness.
Right. Obviously not. Now, before we get to how you went viral and became like a global superstar, I just want to touch on your background. I've read a lot about you. There's a couple articles out there. You grew up like an F1 soccer boxing fan. Were you playing sports at all or just following? Are your parents big athletes or anything like that?
Parents certainly not big athletes, no.
Jeez.
But I grew up in a football and car madhouse. I have two older brothers, and it was kind of either like football and cars or don't talk to us. That is how I grew up. So you had me playing with Barbies that would kick footballs, and
Okay.
I kind of had no choice but to have an interest in it, and that's really paid off. So thank
Hmm.
you, brothers, because it meant that from such an early age I was involved in it. I mean, I have no girl cousins. I'm literally the only girl in my family.
Okay.
So you grow up differently to if you were to have sisters or my friends that grew up with lots of girl cousins or however it works. And it's been amazing because having gone from being a fan to still being a fan, but it now being
Mhm.
my job, I think that's literally everyone's dream.
Yeah.
And I never take that for granted. I know even when I'm exhausted from traveling or on 2 hours sleep, I'm, to be totally transparent, being paid to live my dream. And what more could you want?
Yeah. So we talk about that kind of thing all the time, living out your dream. So the reason you're here, I guess, at the Euros in 24, you just were doing an interview on the street. Do you want to just set it up and tell everybody? I'm sure many of the soccer fans know you because you got, 250,000 followers on IG and you're kind of a big deal on TikTok. But just set it up like the night, the game, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, so it's actually a funny backstory. And again, I've never really spoken about this online, but uh, I had a marketing agency at the time. I'd been media trained and
Hmm.
done a lot of presenting, but it took a big backseat because I had a team of 15 that I was looking after and our own clients. But just before I went out to the Euros, I said to Georgina, who worked with me and still to this day does, do you know what? Let me just get my accounts to 10,000 followers. All my accounts are private because I just wanted to do a few more presenting bits here and there. And
Hmm.
when I was getting rejected or told no from a brand, they would just be like, "You're great, but you've got no following." And, now we're looking for people with even 10,000 followers. So I thought, you know what?
Hmm.
We're going out for the semis. I'm going to take my mic. So in the day, my mum was my camera woman and we filmed with England fans. Didn't think anything of it, put the mics away. And after the game, we were leaving and we were then, continuing our drive through Germany later on. And my brother said to me, please don't stop for any, interviews because as a presenter, I know what it's like when you're desperately trying to get interviews and no one is stopping. I've done it before.
Hmm.
I've been on streets for hours in the rain. So I always have a rule with myself, I'll stop. But they were like, please, we've got such a long drive tomorrow. We were all on such a high. So we actually came out of the stadium and dodged all the massive TV outlets, on purpose. And
Oh.
as we take this side route, I see a green mic muff and he looks at me and he's like, 1 minute. And my family just slightly ahead. And I was like, go on then. I literally have 30 seconds. And we did this interview. And it's wild when you actually know the backstory because I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. But,
Hmm.
I really also agree and believe in you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take.
Right.
And that was a prime example of it. And then that was it. That video, I finished it as always. Walked away. Didn't know where it was. I mean, it had the Daily
Hmm.
Mail Sport on branding on the mic,
Yeah.
but I was like, okay, maybe I'll go on their TikTok. Why I don't know. And I got back to the hotel room about an hour and a half, 2 hours later, and I get a DM from a friend of a friend of a friend saying, "Hey, I think you should see this," with a Twitter/X link. And I didn't even have Twitter at the time. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Craig David. In the UK,
Yeah.
he's an iconic
Yeah.
artist. But my agency at the time managed his social media. So I clicked through his Twitter because that was the only Twitter I had logged in on my phone, through his account, and I see the video, and in like 10 minutes, it was on 250,000 views or something wild. And everyone's like, who is this? Who is this? Who is this? Who is this? And from that moment onwards, my family were all asleep at this point. I am trying to get hold of anyone. It's like 2 in the morning. And my Instagram, someone had screenshotted my Instagram that I just made
Oh,
public before I went out. And I was going
wow.
up and up and up and up. I was like, what's happening? And the rest is history.
Okay, so let's back up a little. I'm not that familiar with like walking out of a stadium and there are microphones there, like, hey, talk to us. First of all, did the guy know you who was asking you for the interview?
No, 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 no. Honestly, no idea who he was. He actually found my Instagram and sent me a message afterwards, like, I'm so sorry for
Oh,
everything that's coming your way. Because I think he probably thought, like, of course, football fans, you can imagine what some of the
yeah.
comments were like. And I was like, no, no, you're all good. The craziest thing to me is before we went out to the Euros, me and Georgina, who I mentioned before, we reached out to every major broadcast outlet that was working on the Euros, everyone from
Oh.
radio to TV to brand sponsors saying, hey, Jolie's going to be out there. No need to, she'll do anything for free. She's a trained presenter, reaching out to everyone,
Hmm.
not one single reply, right?
Oh my goodness.
And then this happens, and the replies started trickling in. They were like, oh,
Right.
can we grab this? Can we do it? Can we do this?
Did you reject them after that?
It feels like such a lifetime ago, but it was then
Right.
navigating, waking up. And I
Hmm.
remember just 24 hours later being asked for my first photo and being so confused. I like double took. And it's a hard thing to explain to people or for, people to be able to relate to because it happens to so few people what happened to me. But literally in a snap of a finger, my life was completely different.
Hmm.
And I think, look, there were two avenues I could have gone down there. One,
Yes.
just turn everything private. It all blows over. These
Hmm.
things, it, you see it with people that go on reality TV or that have viral moments like this. They can turn them into a career, or they can turn it into a, let's forget about this. And maybe the odd person will say, weren't you that girl? But I chose to run with it because it was a once in a lifetime
Right.
opportunity that had, been put in front of me, and I don't regret it ever.
But I
It's
gotta
not
ask,
second.
like, Jolie, a lot of these people who want to go viral, like to gain followers and easily get jobs, it's not organic. It's like crafted. They're trying to make it happen. Yours was organic. And by the way, you don't have to answer, but like, had you guys been partying pretty hard at the game? Because it didn't seem like it was some like drunk interview.
No, like I mean, I'm not a big drinker anyway, but
Right.
the funniest thing is, if I thought for a second I was gonna be seen by millions and millions and millions, probably, at this point, all the videos together have probably done over 1 billion views.
Oh yeah.
I would have, had my hair done, put some makeup on, some lip gloss. It had been pouring with rain the entire day. I had no makeup on my face, it all washed off. I hadn't even redone my lip gloss. And there it happened. And I think, my advice to anyone that's trying to go viral is you can't, I sometimes get comments like, industry industry plant or whatever. So you couldn't fake. It wasn't like it was my own video and I was the one doing the
Hmm.
interview, or I did something crazy that made it go viral. It was just pure raw emotion of me answering from the game. There was nothing to it. So I watched the video and I'm like, huh? What about this video is,
Yeah.
the views that it's got. I put in hours and hours and hours and hours and hours into my edits, and my team do as well, and they don't
Yeah.
get a percentage of the views that got. That was literally text on screen, uploaded, and it worked. And I said it earlier, and I live by it. Everything happens for a reason,
Yeah.
and it happened that day.
So let me ask what's the next step? This blows up. You're getting interview requests. I'm sure you're getting job offers, marriage proposal. Everything was coming at you. How do you like step back and not let this swallow you up and really rattle you?
I think, like, first and foremost, the final was ahead of us, and creating
Yes.
those memories with my family and
Hmm.
doing that was so important. And it was then navigating, for me, this is my dream. Being a presenter in sport has always been my dream.
Hmm.
It's my passion, it's my love, it's everything that I've ever wanted. And it was so important. And I say this to people when they ask for my advice, the things you say no to are just as, if not more important than the things you say yes to. And it was never about earning quick money. Transparently, I could have taken, a load of brand deals straight off of the back of it, made a lot of money really quickly, and then that'd be
Hmm.
it. But I chose the opposite, to really align myself with brands that I love. I'm not an influencer, fair play to influencers. That's not who I am.
Right.
I, I've kind of framed myself as a presenter and a
Hmm.
digital creator. And I love the mix that I have of both, because I
Yeah.
get, the best of both worlds. But it
Hmm.
was then working out, right, I know my strengths. And I think you then have to build a team around you that are better at the things that you can't do. So it was meeting with management. I mean, I got back in the UK and I met with like 5 different agencies every day
Wow.
for a week with my mum. And it was just going with who I thought would represent me the best
Hmm.
and have my best interests at heart, and understood, it wasn't a money making machine. I had to kiss a few frogs to find my prince, but, now I'm super
Right. So,
happy with who I am. And yeah.
all right, before we get to England, I got to ask Jolie, you sound real wise, like you've been, you're like a professional. But so what happened after high school? Did you instantly start the marketing business, or what was the move for you there?
No, so I first went to
Okay.
university, college, as you guys will call it. But there was a mixture of two things. I mean, if I was going to give like a really media trained answer, I would say COVID happened, so I dropped out. But the truth of the matter is, I was dropping out anyway. How university works for most unis in the UK is you're very limited contact hours with your professor as such a week. So anywhere between 7 and 10 hours a week. And it's, a big party. And that for some is amazing. But for me, I like to be busy every second of every day, doing something, feeling super productive. And
Hmm.
it wasn't getting the best out of me. I knew I wanted to work. So I dropped out as COVID happened.
Mm.
It was a blur of a few years. I worked for a breast cancer charity. I tried to help out throughout COVID. And then I landed my first job as a content creator for a big fragrance company in the UK, and that's
Mhm.
basically everything trickled down from there.
Nice. I have to say, have you had any like sketchy moments where you've been like paparazzi'd here in America, or does that happen in London already? Like if you go out with family, friends, a date, whatever, are people like taking your picture? And how does that, is that feel weird? And is that like your new normal? I don't know.
Um, you know what? A bit of both. Sometimes I'm more aware of it now, and
Mm,
everyone's the same when they see someone out that they know or they follow, or they're like, oh, who are they? You'll try and take a sneaky photo, and I feel like I'm quite good at spotting who's taking a sneaky photo. For me, I love it. Like, I'm nothing without my followers,
mm.
and as long as everyone is polite, I won't hold back. So if someone comes and throws a phone in my face and doesn't say anything, I'm like, 1 minute, hi, I'm Jolie, nice to meet you. Would you like a photo?
Yeah,
Because
yeah, yeah.
it's a crazy world otherwise, but especially England fans, this whole tournament has been a crazy experience. Being in a pub before a game with my brother and literally being stopped every 5 minutes, if not more. I've probably
Jeez.
taken thousands and thousands of photos. At some points, there's been queues, and it's wild. But I'm so unbelievably grateful for it
Hmm.
because, as I said, without that, you don't grow, you don't get put on platforms, you
Definitely.
don't get to work with brands. So, I you can never say you can never say it annoys you. I'm not
Wow.
anywhere near a level to be like it annoys me. It doesn't interfere with my life.
That's coming, it sounds like. All right, let's go to
Mhm.
England real quick. So I read one place that your favorite player is Cole Palmer. Is that accurate?
Look, I'm a Chelsea fan.
Okay.
Palmer's been an unbelievable player for us since joining. My brother actually recently got a dog and named him Cole.
Oh,
So we're big Chelsea fans. I think, look, he obviously didn't make the squad. It's no secret that he didn't have a great season.
yeah.
Would I have liked to see him in the team? Yes, because he's very good at taking players on, and he never would have started even if he was in the squad. But he's an unbelievable impact sub. I mean, the Euros final, we use that as an example. I think he
Yeah.
was subbed on in the 70th minute. He scored in the 73rd minute. Um, he's brilliant like that, but he didn't have a good season. And Tuchel picked off of the back of that, and he's the manager.
Yeah.
He will have more insights, know more than any of us.
Hmm.
And I know people don't like to admit that, but you got to trust the manager.
Yeah. So that's the question. Now, your interview happened during the Southgate era, right?
Mm.
And then Tuchel comes and leaves off Palmer, Foden. A couple other guys were left off, and it was like, what the hell's going on here? What? Just be honest. What was your reaction when you saw the initial roster?
Look, I love Tuchel. He won Chelsea the Champions League final.
Right.
I think that he is excellent. Look, he missed out star names.
Yes.
You've got the likes of Trent White in the squad, Harry Maguire, etc.
Hmm.
I had my thoughts, but right now, as you're asking me, you have to look where we are.
Yeah.
Look at the team we have. Look where the team that we have has got us. We're in the semi-final. We're one of 4 teams left in the competition,
Hmm.
and it's the team that's going to win the World Cup. So
Yes.
I back him and I trust him. He's made good subs. Are there players that I would have picked? Yes, but that's an
Right.
opinion that I'm sure every single we're fortunate we're in a position where we can think what we want and we don't
Right.
have an entire country coming at us saying you whatever he did was wrong to someone
Hmm.
out there. But right now we have to think that whatever he has done is right because we're still in this competition, we're still fighting, and we're going to win it.
So at the Miami game, you were there, and I was stunned when they pulled off Declan Rice. And some of the stats show that there was like literally no offense in the second half once Rice came off. What was your reaction when, right, like in the stadium, you're with all your English friends? What was the reaction?
Rice has played so many minutes this season, not just
Yes.
throughout the World Cup, but
And he
for
was on a
Arsenal.
yellow, obviously.
Um,
Yes, yes.
yeah, and look, we've watching the games. I can't tell you what my heart rate is. It's through the roof, and seeing how well we played with 10 men at the Azteca. It was a performance that will forever go down in
Mhm.
history. It was mentally and physically exhausting for our players. You saw Bellingham collapse on the pitch.
Yeah.
Literally fall to the floor when the full time whistle was blown. So I understood why he took Rice off. We didn't. No one's going to look back at that game and think, "Wow, England played really well." I mean, Alan Shearer, obviously a football legend,
Hmm.
he posted on Instagram a photo saying, if you don't play well, then find a way to win. And they did that, or we
Yeah.
did that, or something. And it's true. We didn't play it. You can't look at that and think that is what football should be.
Yeah.
I think Odegaard was brilliant for Norway. I think, Norway looked exhausted in the last half an hour, but it wasn't a good game of football, but we won.
Right. Yeah.
And you can't have every game as a good game.
Mm-hmm. I guess we can. Last question. What do you expect against Argentina besides winning? Because Argentina has not looked particularly sharp. They basically have Messi and a bunch of guys. Whereas I think England's got a better roster. But I'm just curious your thoughts on like how the matchup goes for England.
Harsh, Messi and a bunch of guys. Don't leave out Enzo.
You know what I mean. You know what I
look,
mean. Yeah, they're good players.
I know what you mean.
But they haven't been, Jolie, they have not been great. The numbers
No.
they're the weakest team of the Final Four.
Yeah, I think they've had an easy run. Obviously, they were losing 2-0 to Egypt. They've had a few favors that some would, a few decisions that some would say have really gone in that favor. I think, how is it going to go? I think the atmosphere is going to be an atmosphere that I've never experienced in my lifetime. I think it is going to be absolute chaos in the best way possible. I think that both teams, star players from Kane to Messi to Bellingham, whoever it might be, is going to feel the pressure in a different way to the France-Spain game, because even if you look at the ticket prices, the demand for the Argentinian-England game is through the roof, and there's nowhere near that for the France-Spain game. And I think, that says a lot as well. You've obviously got Messi. Everyone wants to see Messi play in his final World Cup. I'm absolutely ecstatic to watch it. Yeah. But I'm confident. I'm always confident. I'll be nervous, but I think that the odds are in our favour.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I think that I'm hoping Reece James is going to start, and I think he pulls the team. Again, I would say this, I'm a Chelsea fan, but I think we have got the better players, and they're reigning champions. I don't want to say we want it more, but we're going through 60 years of hurt. They are still the champions. Yeah, and I think that carries a lot as well. I think Tuchel said it in an interview afterwards, you can't ever question our mentality. You can bottle it up and sell it. And I loved that because it's true. And it's true from the fans to the coaching staff to Tuchel to the players to everyone back at home to everyone in the US. You can't question England's mentality. And I think that counts for a lot.
Yeah. So Jolie Sharpe, where are you? So you're almost 25. Where are you where do you see yourself media journalism? I don't know if journalism's the right word, but presenter wise in 10 or 15 years? Do you have like a game plan, or you just, hey, it's one day at a time?
I have two answers for this. I think if you have too much of a plan, you're never focused on what's in front of you. You can't be flexible, so much fun of this job that I live and this life that I live is going with the flow and not knowing where I'm going to be next week and what I'm going to be doing. The truth and the most transparent answer is if I'm doing what I'm doing now on a bigger scale in 5 years, in 6 months, in 10 years, I will be so happy. And it's just growing and continuing to grow and experiencing things and getting to experience it with those that I love and care about, my friends and my family. And I will be the happiest person in the world. Yeah. And winning to win the World Cup.
I was going to add that. All right, Jolie Sharpe, thanks a lot. Enjoy the games and your stay in America.
Thank you so much for having me.